Found out my entire family. Knew my wife was cheating with my brother for 2 years, and nobody told me they thought it was funny. I didn't know, so I found it funny when I reported the family tax fraud to the IRS. Hey Reddit, my entire family watched my wife cheat on me with my brother for 2 years and thought it was hilarious that I didn't know. So I found it hilarious when the IRS knocked on their doors. This is going to be long, but trust me, it's worth it. I'm Trevor, 34 male, and I work as a mechanical engineer for an industrial equipment manufacturer. Not exciting, but it pays well, and I'm good at what I do. Been with the company for 8 years, steady promotions, solid retirement account. The kind of boring, stable career that apparently made me the responsible one in the family. My wife Kelly, 32 female, worked as a dental hygienist. We met through mutual friends when I was 26, dated for 2 years, got married in this nice outdoor ceremony that her parents paid for. Everything seemed normal. She was pretty, had a good job. We wanted the same things. Kids eventually, a house in the suburbs, the whole American dream package. My brother Dylan, 29 male, is everything I'm not. Charismatic, funny, always the center of attention at family gatherings. Works as a fitness trainer at some upscale gym where rich people pay him to yell at them. Never held a relationship longer than 6 months. Always had some excuse about not wanting to be tied down yet. My parents, Richard and Joan, live about 20 minutes away. Dad runs an accounting firm. Nothing huge, just him and 2 employees handling small business accounts and personal taxes. Mom helps with administrative stuff. They've been doing this for 30 years, built a decent client base, enough to afford their lifestyle and help out the extended family when needed. Here's where it gets relevant. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. Dylan's the middle child, and our sister Lauren, 26F, works at a nonprofit doing grant writing. We were always close growing up. Sunday dinners at my parents' house were mandatory. Everyone showed up, lots of laughing, and inside jokes. I thought we had a good family. Turns out I was the punchline to a joke that lasted 2 years. The discovery happened 3 months ago. I was home sick with some nasty stomach thing. Lying on the couch feeling miserable, Kelly had told me she was going to her book club. This thing she did every Thursday evening with her girlfriends. They'd meet at someone's house, discuss whatever novel they were supposedly reading, drink wine, typical suburban mom activity, even though we didn't have kids yet. Around 8 p.m., my phone buzzes. Text from my buddy Wade. Dude, isn't that your wife? Attached was a photo from inside a restaurant downtown Kelly, sitting in a booth across from Dylan, both of them laughing, her hand on his across the table. The kind of touching that wasn't brotherly, the way she was leaning in, the way he was looking at her. You didn't need to be a detective to know something was wrong. My stomach dropped, and it wasn't from being sick anymore. I called Wade immediately. He'd been grabbing takeout with his girlfriend when he spotted them. They were clearly on a date, sharing appetizers, being all cozy, totally comfortable with each other. Wade said he almost didn't send the photo because he wasn't sure if it was his place, but decided I'd want to know. I told him thanks, then sat there staring at my phone for probably 20 minutes. Part of me wanted to believe there was some explanation. Maybe they were planning a surprise for someone's birthday? Maybe it was just dinner between siblings? But siblings don't hold hands across restaurant tables like that. Called Kelly. Straight to voicemail. Tried Dylan. Same thing. So I did what any suspicious husband would do. I started digging through old phone records, credit card statements, anything I could access. We had joint accounts, so I could see all her transactions. Went back 6 months just randomly looking for patterns. Found them everywhere once I knew what to look for. Every Thursday book club for the past 8 months. Charges at restaurants across town. Sometimes hotels. Always the same nights. Always when she said she was with her girlfriends. Dylan's gym was closed Thursdays. His day off. The coincidence was pretty freaking obvious once you saw it. I checked our shared calendar. Book club had been happening for 2 years. Every single Thursday evening, sometimes extending to weekend girls' trips that were actually romantic getaways. The credit card receipts told the whole story. Couples dinners, hotel rooms with 2 breakfasts charged to the room, tickets to concerts she'd supposedly gone to with her friend Jessica. 2 years of lies. 2 years of my brother sleeping with my wife while I worked late on Thursdays, finishing project reports. But here's the part that really kicked me in the teeth. I started looking at family photos from holidays and gatherings during those 2 years. Really looking at them. The way Dylan and Kelly stood just a little too close in group shots. The inside jokes at Christmas dinner that I didn't get. The times Dylan would volunteer to help Kelly with something and they'd disappear for 30 minutes. My family knew. I could see it now in their faces in those photos. The shared glances, the barely suppressed smiles when Kelly and Dylan interacted. They all freaking knew, and nobody said a word. Kelly came home around 11 p.m. that night. I was still on the couch, phone in hand, 2 years of evidence compiled in a neat folder on my laptop. "Hey, babe, how are you feeling?" she asked, dropping her purse on the counter like it was any other Thursday. "Where were you tonight?" I asked, voice flat. "Book club, same as always. We did that thriller everyone's been talking about. Jennifer couldn't make it, but the rest of us had a good discussion." "That's interesting, because Wade saw you at Giovanni's with Dylan. Want to try that answer again?" The blood drained from her face. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried to stammer out something about running into Dylan by coincidence and deciding to grab dinner. I pulled up my laptop and showed her the spreadsheet I'd made. 2 years of Thursday dinners, hotel stays, her girls' weekend to Napa that lined up with Dylan posting photos from Napa. The New Year's trip to Denver she took while I was stuck at work. Dylan had been in Denver the same weekend. "How long?" I asked. She started crying. "Trevor, I can explain." "How long?" 2 years, she whispered. "But it's not what you think. We never meant for it to happen. It just..." I closed the laptop. "Get out. Go stay wherever you want. Just get out of my house." She tried to argue, to explain, to tell me she loved me, and this was all a mistake. I told her the only mistake was me thinking I knew who she was. She packed a bag and left around midnight. I sat there in the dark for a while, then did something that would later turn out to be the best decision I made. I called a lawyer before I called anyone in my family. My attorney Mitchell had handled some contract review for me when I bought the house. Solid guy, straightforward, didn't mess around. I left him a voicemail explaining the situation and asking for an appointment as soon as possible. Then I texted my parents. "Need to talk to you tomorrow. It's important." Mom responded immediately. "Is everything okay, sweetie?" "No. I'll explain tomorrow. Just you and Dad, no one else." I didn't tell Dylan or Lauren. Wanted to see how this would play itself out. The next morning, I dragged myself to work, despite feeling like death. Told my boss I had some personal issues and might need some time off soon. He was cool about it. Told me to take what I needed. Met with Mitchell during my lunch break. Laid out everything. The affair, the evidence, the timeline. Asked about divorce procedures, asset division, the whole process. He walked me through it step by step, made notes, told me I had solid grounds for a fault divorce if I wanted to go that route. "One question," he said. "Do you want to try to work it out, or are you done?" "I'm done," he nodded. "Then let's proceed. I'll file the papers this week." After work, I drove to my parents' house Friday evening. Dad would be finishing up at the office. Mom would be making dinner. Perfect timing to drop a bomb on their evening. They greeted me at the door with concern all over their faces. Mom tried to hug me, but I stepped back. That seemed to register that something was really wrong. We sat in the living room. Dad muted the TV. Mom perched on the edge of the couch, looking worried. "Kelly's been having an affair with Dylan for 2 years, I said. No build-up, just straight to it. Dad's face did this weird thing where he tried to look surprised but couldn't quite pull it off. Mom's reaction was even worse. She looked guilty. Not shocked, not horrified, guilty. "Oh, honey," Mom started. "How did you find out?" Not, "Are you sure?" or "That can't be true?" Just, "How did you find out?" "You knew," I said. It wasn't a question. Mom and Dad exchanged a look. The kind of look that confirmed everything I'd been suspecting since I started really looking at those family photos. "Trevor, we didn't think it was our place to..." Dad began. "You didn't think it was your place to tell me my wife was screwing my brother?" My voice came out way calmer than I felt. "How long have you known?" Another guilty look between them. "About a year," Mom admitted quietly. "Dylan told us he was seeing someone, and then we saw them together at the farmer's market one Sunday, when you were out of town for work. We confronted them, and they begged us not to say anything. They said they were going to end it." "A year ago," I repeated. "So for an entire year, you watched me show up to Sunday dinners with my wife, watched her and Dylan act like nothing was happening, and you just let it continue?" "We thought they'd handle it themselves," Dad said. "We didn't want to be the ones to break up your marriage." The absolute insanity of that logic would have been funny if it wasn't destroying my life. They didn't want to break up my marriage, so they just let my wife and brother do it in slow motion, while everyone watched. "Does Lauren know?" I asked. More guilty silence. "Everyone knows," I said flatly. "Sunday dinners for the past year. Everyone sitting around the table knowing my wife was cheating on me with my brother. And you all just..." "What? Thought it was funny?" "Of course we didn't think it was funny," Mom protested. "Then why didn't anyone tell me?" Dad shifted uncomfortably. "It's complicated. Family dynamics are..." "Get out," I interrupted. "This is our house," Dad pointed out. "Then I'm leaving. But here's what's going to happen. I'm divorcing Kelly. I'm cutting Dylan out of my life completely. And I need some time to figure out how I feel about parents who watched their son get humiliated for a year and did nothing. I stood up and headed for the door. Mom followed, pleading with me to understand their position, to not make rash decisions, to think about family unity. Family unity, I repeated. That's rich coming from people who let their family fall apart because it was uncomfortable to speak up. I left without looking back. Over the weekend, Mitchell moved fast, papers were drawn up, filed, and served to Kelly at her mom's house where she'd been staying. She called me crying, begging to talk, saying we could work through this. I told her to have her lawyer contact mine, and hung up. Dylan tried calling too. I blocked his number, then blocked him on everything else. Social media, email, all of it. As far as I was concerned, I didn't have a brother anymore. Sunday dinner time came around. I didn't show up. Got several texts from family asking where I was. Ignored all of them. Monday morning, Lauren showed up at my house before work. I almost didn't open the door, but she kept knocking. "What do you want?" I asked through the crack in the door. "To talk to you. Please, Trevor. Just give me 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let her in. Lauren looked terrible, like she hadn't slept. She sat on my couch and just started crying immediately. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I wanted to tell you so many times I almost did. Probably a dozen times, but Mom and Dad said it wasn't our place, and Dylan kept saying he was going to end it, and—" "How long have you known?" I interrupted. "Since the beginning," she admitted. "I saw them together at a movie theater about 2 years ago. When you were out of town for that conference, I confronted Dylan that night, and he told me everything. Made me promise not to tell you, because he said he was going to end it soon. 2 years. My little sister had known for the entire 2 years and said nothing. Why? I asked. Why didn't you tell me? Because I'm stupid, she cried. Because Dylan kept saying it wasn't serious, that he was going to stop, that telling you would just hurt you unnecessarily if it was about to end anyway. And then months would go by, and I'd think maybe now isn't the right time. And then more months would go by, and eventually I don't know, I got paralyzed by it. Did you think it was funny? I asked. All those Sunday dinners, watching me be clueless. Did you laugh about it? No. Lauren looked horrified. God, no, Trevor. It killed me. Every single dinner I felt sick watching it. But I didn't know how to tell you without destroying everything. Everything's destroyed anyway, I pointed out. Difference is, now I know who I can trust. Turns out it's nobody. Lauren tried to explain more, to make me understand, but I was done listening. I asked her to leave. She hugged me before she went, told me she loved me, that she was so sorry. I didn't hug her back. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings and cold silence from my family. Kelly tried everything to get me to respond. Showing up at my work, sending long emails, even having her mom call me, I maintained total radio silence. Mitchell handled everything through official channels. Dylan tried a different approach. Showed up at my house one evening, I saw him through the window and didn't answer the door. He knocked for 10 minutes, eventually started yelling through the door about how we needed to talk like adults. You screwed my wife for 2 years, I yelled back through the closed door. We're done talking. It wasn't like that, he shouted. It just happened. Neither of us meant for this. I don't care. Leave before I call the cops. He finally left, but not before kicking my garbage can over in the driveway like a child throwing a tantrum. My parents tried the weekly check-in calls. I let them go to voicemail. They'd leave these awkward messages about hoping I was okay, that they understood I needed space, that they were there when I was ready to talk. What they didn't understand was that I was never going to be ready to talk. They'd made their choice when they decided protecting Dylan's secret affair was more important than protecting their other son from humiliation. About 6 weeks into this Cold War, I got an interesting piece of mail. An invitation to my parents' annual 4th of July barbecue. This big family event they threw every year with extended relatives, neighbors, the whole deal. The invitation included a handwritten note from Mom. Please come. We miss you. It won't be the same without you. Love, Mom. I looked at that invitation for a long time. Part of me wanted to just throw it away and continue the silent treatment. But another part of me had an idea that was significantly more satisfying than just avoiding them. See, here's what nobody in my family knew. I'd spent those 6 weeks doing more than just processing my divorce and feeling sorry for myself. I'd been going through every financial document I could get my hands on from my parents' business. Remember when I mentioned my dad runs an accounting firm? Here's the thing about accountants who handle other people's money. They tend to keep really detailed records, including records for their own business. And my dad, being old school and somewhat paranoid about cloud storage, kept backup copies of everything at the house. I'd helped him set up his home office file system years ago when he was making the transition from paper to digital. I knew exactly where everything was stored, and more importantly, I still had the password to his home network from when I'd set up their Wi-Fi. I know what you're thinking. Isn't accessing someone else's computer illegal? Probably. But I'd argue that since I'd built the system and he'd never changed the default password I'd set up, he was kind of asking for it. Plus, I was well past caring about the legal niceties at this point. What I found in those files was fascinating. My dad's accounting firm handled about 40 small business clients. Normal stuff, restaurants, retail stores, a few medical practices, the kind of mom-and-pop businesses that need someone to manage their books and file their taxes, but can't afford a big firm. Dad charged reasonable rates, gave good service, and had kept most of these clients for years. By all accounts, he ran a legitimate business. Except for one little problem. He was also running a very illegitimate side operation. For about 15 of his clients, Dad had set up what's called a cash skimming scheme. These businesses dealt heavily in cash transactions, restaurants especially. Dad would help them underreport their cash income, keep it off the books, and avoid paying taxes on it. In exchange, he got a percentage of the savings. It's a fairly common form of tax fraud, actually. Small businesses do it all the time, and they rarely get caught because the IRS doesn't have the resources to audit every pizza place that underreports their cash sales by 10%. But Dad had gotten greedy. He wasn't helping businesses underreport by 10%. He was helping them hide 30 to 40% of their cash income. We're talking about hundreds of thousands in unreported income across all his clients. And he was taking 20% of the tax savings as his cut. The files laid it all out in beautiful, incriminating detail. Spreadsheets showing actual income versus reported income. Notes about cash pickups and splitting payments. Everything a prosecutor would need to build a case. Even better, some of these clients were family members. My Uncle Tommy owned a chain of 3 pizzerias, all of them underreporting income with Dad's help. My Aunt Rachel ran a catering business. Same deal. Dad's brother, my Uncle Kenneth, owned a used car lot. He was hiding income from cash vehicle sales. The whole extended family was in on various versions of this scheme, all coordinated through Dad's accounting firm. Now, I'm not an accountant, but I am an engineer. I know how to analyze systems, find weak points, and document evidence. I spent 3 weeks going through every file I could access, building a comprehensive timeline of the fraud, and organizing it all into a format that would be easy for investigators to follow. I made copies of everything, stored them in multiple secure locations, and prepared a detailed summary report explaining what I'd found and how the scheme worked. Then I accepted the invitation to the 4th of July barbecue. The party was exactly what I expected. Extended family, neighbors, everyone crowded into my parents' backyard, eating burgers and pretending everything was normal. Kelly wasn't there, thank goodness. But Dylan was holding court by the grill, telling stories that had everyone laughing. When I walked through the gate, conversation stopped. People stared like I was a ghost. Mom rushed over with this hopeful expression, trying to hug me. I sidestepped it. "I'm glad you came," she said. "This means we can start healing as a family." "Sure," I agreed. "Let's talk about family." I walked over to where Dad was manning the grill with Uncle Tommy. Dylan saw me coming, and his expression went from surprise to something like guilt. "Good. Trevor," Dad said carefully. "Glad you could make it." "Wouldn't miss it," I replied. "Hey, Dad, can I talk to you and Uncle Tommy inside for a minute? It's about business stuff." Dad looked confused but nodded. Tommy followed us inside to Dad's home office, probably thinking I wanted advice on something. Once we were all in there with the door closed, I pulled out my phone. "So I've been doing some light reading lately," I started. "Going through old business files, tax returns, that kind of thing. Found some interesting inconsistencies." Dad's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the 15 businesses you're helping commit tax fraud, including Uncle Tommy's pizzerias. Want to explain how Johnny's reported $60,000 less income last year than what your private records show they actually made?" Uncle Tommy's face matched Dad's now. "Trevor, what?" "Save it," I interrupted. "I've got everything. Every spreadsheet, every note, every transaction. Years worth of evidence showing systematic tax fraud across multiple businesses, all coordinated through Dad's firm." "You've been spying on me?" Dad spluttered. "Going through my private business files?" "You mean the files stored on a network I built, using a password I created, in a system I set up?" I shrugged. "Yeah, I went through them. Fascinating stuff. I especially like the spreadsheet labeled Cash Adjustments, where you track how much each client is hiding from the IRS. Tommy looked like he might throw up. Trevor, you don't understand. This is how small businesses survive. The tax system is rigged against... I don't care, I cut him off. I don't care about your justifications or your reasons. You want to know what I care about? I care that my entire family watched my wife cheat on me with my brother for 2 years and thought it was funny to keep it secret. Dad found his voice. This isn't about Kelly and Dylan. This is completely separate. Is it, though? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, this family has a real problem with keeping secrets. You all kept quiet about Dylan screwing my wife because it was convenient. Well, I kept quiet about discovering your tax fraud for 6 weeks because it was convenient for me to document everything properly before I did anything about it. What are you saying? Tommy whispered. I'm saying I reported all of you to the IRS 3 days ago. Sent them a comprehensive package with all the evidence I gathered. They called yesterday to confirm they'd received everything and that it looked very compelling. The silence in that room was beautiful. You didn't, Dad said. I did. And you know what's funny? They seemed really interested. Said this kind of organized fraud across multiple businesses usually triggers automatic audits. Criminal investigations if the amounts are large enough, which they are. Tommy grabbed my arm. Trevor, you can't do this. My businesses, my family. I pulled my arm away. Funny thing about family, Uncle Tommy. I thought family meant something too. Thought it meant people looking out for each other, being honest with each other, having each other's backs. Turns out I was wrong. This is insane, Dad said. You're going to destroy multiple businesses, hurt dozens of families, all because you're angry about your marriage? No, I corrected. You destroyed multiple businesses by committing federal tax fraud. I just made a phone call. See, that's the thing about secrets. They're only valuable as long as everyone agrees to keep them. Once someone decides to tell the truth, everything falls apart. I headed for the door. Tommy tried to block me, but I stepped around him. You know what the IRS agent told me? I said, hand on the doorknob. She said they love it when people hand them cases this well-documented, makes their job easy. Usually takes years to build a case this solid. I did all the work for them. Trevor, please, Dad said, and I'd never heard his voice sound like that before. We can fix this. We can work something out. Just call them back and tell them it was a mistake, that you misunderstood what you were looking at. I can't do that, Dad, see. When you file a report with the IRS, they take it seriously. Once the investigation starts, there's no taking it back, especially not when the evidence is this strong. I opened the door and walked out, leaving them standing there. Made my way through the party, ignoring questions from relatives who'd noticed the commotion. Got to my car and drove away from my parents' house for what I figured might be the last time my phone started blowing up within minutes. Calls and texts from Dad, Tommy, other relatives who'd been informed of what I'd done. I blocked them all and drove home in silence. The next morning, I got a call from Mitchell, my lawyer. Did you really report your dad to the IRS? He asked. News travels fast. Trevor, you realize this is going to cause massive problems for your entire family, right? I'm aware. And you're okay with that? I thought about Kelly and Dylan laughing together at restaurants while I worked late, about my parents watching me bring my wife to Sunday dinners, knowing what was happening, about Lauren keeping the secret for 2 years, about an entire family that decided my humiliation was less important than their comfort. Yeah, I told Mitchell. I'm okay with that. Over the next few weeks, the dominoes started falling in spectacular fashion. The IRS moved faster than I'd expected, probably because the evidence package I'd provided was so comprehensive. Within 2 weeks, Dad received notification that his firm was being audited, along with 15 of his clients. Uncle Tommy's pizzerias got hit with a full investigation. The catering business, the used car lot, a construction company run by my cousin, all of them got notices. The IRS was being thorough, following every thread I'd laid out in my report. Dad tried calling me repeatedly. I didn't answer. He tried coming to my house. I didn't open the door. Finally, he sent a registered letter through his lawyer, begging me to recant my statement to the IRS, claiming I'd misunderstood what I'd seen in his files. I had Mitchell respond with a very simple message. The IRS already had everything, and there was nothing to recant. The evidence spoke for itself. The criminal investigation started in week 3. Federal agents showed up at Dad's office with a warrant, seized all his files and computers, did the same at Uncle Tommy's pizzerias and the other businesses involved. Apparently, when you help coordinate tax fraud across multiple businesses, the government takes it really seriously. My phone started getting calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in years, all of them wanting to know why I'd done this, how I could betray family. Didn't I realize I was hurting innocent people? I saved one of those voicemails from my Aunt Rachel. She tearfully explained how the catering business was her whole life, how she had employees who depended on her, how I was destroying everything over a personal grudge. Personal grudge. Like discovering your wife's affair and your family's betrayal was equivalent to being cut in line at the grocery store. The divorce proceedings wrapped up around the same time the IRS investigation was hitting full stride. Kelly fought it at first, tried to claim she deserved half of everything despite the affair. Her lawyer quickly advised her that a fault divorce in our state meant she'd be lucky to walk away with anything. We settled. She got her car, her personal belongings, and enough money to get her own place. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and my dignity. Mitchell did excellent work. Kelly tried to talk to me one last time at the final court appearance. Said she'd made a terrible mistake, that she still loved me, that Dylan had manipulated her. I told her I didn't care who manipulated who. They deserved each other. Last I heard, Dylan had dumped her 3 weeks after my divorce was finalized. Apparently, once the thrill of sneaking around was gone, their relationship had no foundation. Who could have predicted that? Dylan tried to contact me exactly once during all of this. Sent me a long email explaining his side of the story, how he'd fallen in love with Kelly, how it wasn't about hurting me, how I needed to understand that sometimes these things just happen. I didn't read past the first paragraph, just forwarded it to Mitchell with a note, in case we need evidence of his character for anything. The family completely fractured after the IRS investigation became public. Mom was so angry about the audit that she moved in with her sister temporarily. Dad was spending more time with lawyers than at his office, which was barely functioning anyway, since half his clients had dropped him in terror of being associated with the scandal. Lauren tried to apologize again, sent me a long letter about how she understood if I never forgave her, but wanted me to know she regretted not telling me the truth. I appreciated the letter more than I'd expected, but I still wasn't ready to talk to her. Maybe someday. Not today. The extended family basically split into two camps. Those who thought I was justified, and those who thought I'd gone too far. Thanksgiving that year was apparently a disaster, with the family unable to gather because too many people weren't speaking to each other. I wouldn't know firsthand because I wasn't invited. I spent Thanksgiving with Wade and his girlfriend instead. We ordered Chinese food and watched movies. Best Thanksgiving I'd had in years. The IRS investigation concluded about 7 months after I'd filed the initial report. The results were even better than I'd hoped. Dad's accounting license was permanently revoked. He could never practice accounting again in any official capacity. The firm was shut down, all assets seized to pay fines and restitution. He was charged with 15 counts of conspiracy to commit tax fraud, among other charges. The prosecutor offered a plea deal: 3 years in federal prison, hefty fines, full restitution to the government. Dad took the plea. Didn't have much choice given the evidence. He reported to minimum security prison 2 months ago. Mom is living with her sister, working part-time at a retail store to make ends meet. Their house was sold to pay restitution and legal fees. Uncle Tommy's pizzeria's all closed. He couldn't afford the back taxes, penalties, and legal fees. Last I heard, he was working as a manager at someone else's restaurant and living in a small apartment. The catering business went under. The used car lot got seized. The construction company declared bankruptcy. All the family businesses involved in the scheme collapsed under the weight of their unpaid taxes and legal problems. Dylan lost his job at the fancy gym. Turns out being at the center of a massive family scandal doesn't play well with their wealthy clientele. He's doing personal training out of his apartment now, struggling to rebuild his client base. Kelly moved back in with her parents in a different state. I heard through the grapevine that she's working at a dental office there, trying to rebuild her life. Good for her, I guess. Not my problem anymore. People have asked me if I regret it, if I think I went too far, destroyed too many lives over a personal betrayal. The answer is no. See, here's what everyone seems to forget. I didn't commit tax fraud. I didn't cheat on my wife. I didn't keep a massive secret that hurt someone I supposedly loved. I didn't decide that my comfort was more important than someone else's reality. They made all those choices themselves. I just decided that if family loyalty meant covering up lies and illegal activity, then I wanted no part of that family. If protecting Dylan's affair was more important than protecting me, then they could enjoy the consequences of their choices without my help. Everyone wants to act like I'm the bad guy for reporting the tax fraud. But nobody wants to acknowledge that the tax fraud was happening long before Kelly and Dylan ever got together. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that my entire family was comfortable committing federal crimes as long as they were profiting from it. The affair was just the trigger that made me stop being complicit in their dysfunction. A year later, I'm doing fine. Great, actually. I got promoted at work. Turns out when you're not constantly stressed about family drama and a failing marriage, You have more energy to focus on your career. My boss noticed the improved performance and rewarded it accordingly. I bought a new house. Nothing huge, but it's mine, and it doesn't have any memories of Kelly in it. Decorated it exactly how I wanted without having to compromise with anyone. Started seeing someone new, met her at a work conference. She's a project manager for a manufacturing company, smart and funny, and has no connection to my old life. We're taking it slow, but it's nice having someone who makes me laugh again. I reconnected with Wade properly, started making time for friendships instead of just family obligations. Joined a gym, picked up some hobbies, generally rebuilt a life that doesn't revolve around people who don't respect me. Lauren reached out again recently. She's cut ties with Dylan entirely and has minimal contact with our parents. We've been texting occasionally, nothing heavy, just small talk. Maybe eventually we'll get back to being siblings. Maybe not. I'm okay either way. I don't miss my family. Not even a little bit. Sometimes people ask if I'm lonely or if I regret burning those bridges, and I tell them the truth. I'm happier now than I was when I had a family that treated loyalty like a one-way street. The last message I got from Dad was 3 months ago, forwarded through his lawyer. He wanted me to know he was sorry, that he understood why I'd done what I did, and that he hoped someday I could forgive him. I didn't respond. Forgiveness might come eventually, or it might not. Right now, I'm focused on building a life with people who treat honesty like a basic requirement instead of an optional courtesy. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.